This week on Take It Outside.
My uncle's like, well, the seals, they're hard, but you shouldn't do it. I'm like, why? He goes, because you won't make it. I'm like, why won't I make it? He goes, nobody makes it. I'm like, oh, that's me.
Oh, you did a year in Bahrain?
I did a year, yeah, man. I mean, it's not a sexy mish, but you know what? I learned a ton.
Yeah.
You know how in the teams you go to school and you gotta I gotta use the muscle.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. You get back, you're like, I just learned how to, how to pack parachutes. I'm gonna go base jump. Like, That's kind of how it ends up. I don't care about motivation at all. It's overrated. Discipline is where it's at.
Really?
I don't feel like doing it. I do it anyway.
Yeah. This podcast was brought to you by Outsider. Check us out at www.outsider.com. Outsider is an outdoor lifestyle brand owned and operated by me, retired Navy SEAL Sam Mackey, and my dear friend and former NFL quarterback Jay Cutler. At Outsider, we encourage everyone to get outside and enjoy all that life has to offer. Head over to outsider.com to check out our unique patent-pending drinkware. Outsider's drinkware can be customized with your personal or business logo. Go to outsider.com, upload your logo, and we will send you visual proofs and great wholesale pricing. And don't forget, get outside and enjoy all that life has to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Take It Outside podcast, where we talk about all things outdoors and just getting outside in general, where life happens. I'm your host, Sam Mackey. Our co-host, Smokin' Jay Cutler, could not be here today, unfortunately, but we have a very special guest. Our next guest is a retired Navy SEAL commander with over 22 years of service. He has 7 deployments to the Middle East and was awarded 3 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart. He's a Harvard graduate and the CEO of 2 companies, an avid spear fisherman, surfer, martial artist, and an amateur beekeeper. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jimmy May.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming on, bud.
Of course,
I really do. So we'll get into our backstory and how we met, because that caveat that you gave us when we were going through the platoon leaders course was one of my favorite ones that I've got in my career.
I still teach that.
Really?
I didn't want to do it when I started because, I felt sick to my stomach and I was embarrassed and ashamed about some of the decisions I made. They made me do it. And now, I tried to just talk about stuff I screwed up. And then the next thing you know, it's been 14 years, 15 years, and I'm still doing it. And, you guys meaning you and the other operators, gave me a lot of grace. And I really appreciated that. It turned out being good for me. And now if it helps anybody, then it's been a good thing.
I'll digress quickly, but looking back at that time frame, that was before people were really showing vulnerabilities, right? It was still a lot of like macho teen guy shit for the most part.
Yeah.
And that was the era when people started doing vignettes and talking about like, hey, I fucked this up. And, this is what I could have done better. I'm going to tell you why, so you don't do it. I think that was the beginning of that, right around that time frame.
I didn't do it on purpose. My plan was to do it so they wouldn't make me do it anymore. They told me like, hey, you got to do this. I'm like, no. They're like, well, you know what the military's like. It's orders, not requests. They're like, hey, bro, you're doing it. I'm like, okay, so I'm just I'll teach you. I'll talk about how screwed up I am and you never ask again. And of course the guys liked it. Yeah. And they like to hear about someone else who screwed up that's still around. And they just, like I said, gave me a lot of grace and it's been a good thing.
Good. Well, we'll get to that in a bit. First I want to start, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in El Paso, Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not really like Texas. It's more like Mexico. I mean, we were on the bad side of town, northeast. And so my dad worked at, he was a cashier at Gibson's. He worked at 7-Eleven. We didn't have a whole lot, but you could kind of get by back then. He worked a lot. So I was the only white kid in my whole school that I can remember.
Really?
All Mexicans, all and black people. And I speak pretty good Spanish from that time, actually, just because it makes sense to me. And I still, to this day, I love the culture.
Yeah. Excellent. So does my wife. We almost ended up in San Antonio. She speaks Spanish. I mean, she's a tall blonde girl, but the Mexican culture is just her absolute favorite.
Yeah. It's just so comfortable for me. Like the men work hard, the food's phenomenal.
Exactly.
I'm all about it. Yeah, I'm all about it.
So what was life growing up, and in El Paso? What'd you do as a kid?
Yeah, I played a lot of sports.
Yeah.
I was a late bloomer, so I didn't started getting like man traits till like my junior year of high school, but when they kicked in, I ended up being a decent athlete. So I played football. You're in Texas, you got to play football. And then I was a really good wrestler.
Yeah.
I ended up getting some opportunities to wrestle in college, but I was kind of over it, and I didn't want to go to college. I didn't feel like that was in the cards for me. I just didn't feel like, I thought it was for rich kids. I didn't know anybody went to college, so why would I do it? And I was just trying to find my way in the world. But I don't think that my parents were together, and they worked hard to take care of me. But I don't think that I had anything really remarkable as a growing up as a young man.
At what point in your life did you decide you wanted to be a Navy SEAL?
So I enlisted in the Navy out of high school because I didn't have any opportunity and wasn't sure what to do, and I hated it. It was terrible. Like I was enlisted I was a machinist mate. I test well, so I ended up going to nuclear power, and after a year of that, I was like, this is terrible. Like I don't want anything to do with it. So I get a scholarship. Really fortunate. I was just driving back from Daytona Beach, and some lady's car was broke on the side of the road. Pull over and fix it. I'm kind of mechanic-y, and turned out to be the CO's wife of the command.
Oh, really?
And he's like, so I end up getting an award. And he's like, what can I do for you? I'm like, man, my SATs aren't great, but I'm trying to get an officer's package. He's like, turn it into me direct. Boom. Turn it into him. 3 days later, I've got, hey, you're going to go to college. I didn't know where to go. I went to Texas A&M, and turned out to be, a good thing for me. And during my time there, I was like, what am I going to do when I go back to Navy? Because I don't want to go back to nuclear power. And my uncle, who did well in Navy, was like, I was like, is there anything out there that's hard? I feel like everything's stupid.
Yeah.
Nuclear power was difficult academically, but the Navy itself was super easy. I'm doing great in college. I never go to class. I got like a 3.6 GPA.
Yeah.
And my uncle's like, well, the SEALs, they're hard, but you shouldn't do it. I'm like, why? He goes, because you won't make it. I'm like, why won't I make it? He goes, nobody makes it. I'm like, oh, that's me. So that's the only reason. I don't have a cool reason. Like,
really?
I wanted to help my country.
Yeah.
I just was looking for something that I felt like was a worthy challenge.
I saw the movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
That's a big one.
So, and dead serious.
That's 40% of our force.
Yep. And I would say that was around 5th grade time frame, maybe 4th or 5th grade. I'm 40. And then I boxed my whole life. Then it got wrapped up in the wrong crowd, ended up selling drugs, and got arrested for selling weed in the state of California. So I was on house arrest, and then got off house arrest and was on, or I went to juvenile hall, then was on house arrest, got off house arrest, was on probation. And then my senior year, I'm like, man, I want my driver's license back. I want to be off probation.
Yeah.
Went to the recruiter, and he's like, yeah, we'll take you. And but so then I called my probation officer, said, hey, if I join the military, will my probation end and I have my driver's license back? And they're like, yep, you'll be, your record will be expunged if you join the military. Because when I got arrested, I was 17. So that's what really forced me in. But,
so many of our guys are like that.
Yeah.
And when I went to college, I got thrown out of my ROTC. I got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I was just
Was
goofing
ROTC
around.
mandatory under the program that you were in?
It was back then. So now they have like Stay 21 or something, but back then it was just ROTC. So they didn't pay me. I got $150 a month stipend for books, and they paid for my school. And I was just I didn't like getting yelled at by a bunch of kids that had never been in the military.
Yeah.
And I ended up like, I went to the golf course, and I used to pick up golf balls out of the pond and sell them back to the pro shop because I had a daughter, and she was one. I had to find a way to make ends meet.
Yeah.
So I would go sell these golf balls back for $1 a piece. I get a lot of them. So I get like 1,700. And $400 from you was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
And so, I was out there doing that. And as I was doing it, this nutria, which is like this big river rat. You know what nutria is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they're scary. They're like mean. Anyway, I ran over and scooped it out of in this trash can, and I went back to work. At the end of the day, I'm like, what do I do with this thing? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go huck this thing in the guard room, which is like where these guys have to stand, watch, and answer phones. And they're all these cadets. And I shook them up, boom, 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 the trash can. This thing's like teeth. They got red teeth,
I didn't know they had red teeth.
Oh, they do, yeah. And I hucked this thing in that guard room, and it scared them to death. And they were jumping out. And it was pretty funny. That's not how I got thrown out. I got in trouble, so I get a restricted weekend where you got to check in at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning for the whole weekend. And man, I was like any good future frogman. I'm getting drunk, just staying awake. And it's like one of the late ones, like 2 or 4 or something. And I decided to put my uniform on, and you had these like things that hold your socks to your shirt.
I've seen them. I've
the
never worn
grandpa
them.
straps. Yeah. I put those, as I put it on, I'm like, Well, when I sign in the desk, it's like chest high. They can't see my pants. I don't got to wear pants. So I like checked in with no pants on to my restricted weekend. I'm all signing in and they're like, "You're drunk." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And I walk out and my butt, of course we won't wear underwear, my butt's hanging out. So I get asked to leave the program in ROTC.
Really?
Yeah. But
so what was the goal when you entered? Was it to entered college? Was it like, or the deal, hey, if you do this and go become a SWO, or did they make you commit to something on the back end?
They wanted me to go back into nuclear power.
Okay.
Because nuclear officers it's hard to get them in.
Yeah.
So I realized that was not a path for me. I just said yes on all the boxes until I got there. And then I was like, nope, not doing this. So I decided to go in the SEAL teams, and it was the right path for me. I don't think I would have been and done well in the rest of the military.
And so you finished school, got commissioned, correct?
Yep. Got commissioned August 19th, showed up at Buds September 1st, I think. And they're like, "Hey, we had some guys drop out. You want to class up September 3rd? I'm like, "Yes, I will." And just right away. So September 11th, 2001, I was in Buds.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was that day like?
We had just finished our morning workout, and we had a 4-mile time run after breakfast.
Were you in first phase?
First phase.
Okay.
I was in first phase. And I was sitting there at the chow hall, and all of a sudden the TVs are all on the same channel, which is weird. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And the sound's not on in the chow hall. You remember?
Yep.
And all of a sudden they turn the sound on, and they're like, the instructors came in, they're like, "Hey, don't worry about the next revolution. Like, history's happening. Things are about to change for us." And we watched the second plane hit live from, when I walk in the chow hall at Buds, I used to be the XO there too. I'd walk in there. I still remember sitting at that table, and I still remember I was sitting right there watching it happen live. And the instructor was like, "Fellas, things are about to change." Yeah.
And what change did they maintain? Of course, they maintained first phase, but for the rest of that day, did you have any more evolutions, or what? I assume the atmosphere and just changed.
Well,
right, amongst the instructors.
There was a huge line out the gate because they locked everything down.
Yeah.
They had SEAL snipers on the roofs of all the buildings. They really went like, "Hey, things are going to get crazy." But for us, we just missed the 4-mile time run, and we did everything else. I don't remember anything. I remember seeing more guys running around with guns, but I didn't. For me, it was still just we missed one evolution in Buds, and we had to make it up on like Friday or something. Yeah.
Now, there was other officers in your class, and they, correct me if I'm wrong, but they are just freshly commissioned too out of the academy. Most of them.
Most of them are academy, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other Mustangs?
In my class, no, I was the only Mustang in my class. Yeah.
Did you play a significant leadership role amongst the officers since you had the prior experience?
Well, I would have to say not really.
Yeah.
I think I got a reputation as kind of like a hard dude.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to quit, they throw them in my crew.
And you run them out.
I would run them out. I really think that's kind of, looking back, that's what I think about. But there was a guy who was former fleet, so he was a full lieutenant. Really good dude. And Lieutenant Ramirez, he's still a friend of mine to this day. And, he ran the class. He did a good job. We had a good LPO. And then, so for me, I remember they would throw me the problem children. I guess I'll throw it out there. Guys heard of Dan Bilzerian is like a famous guy. And, he made it all the way to third phase in our class. They threw him in with me, and he was just a non-team player.
He made it third phase.
He made it third phase with Mike. Yeah.
Really?
They put him in my boat crew, and I'm like, "Why are you doing this?"
I was always wondering what the real story was behind that.
Yeah.
I never looked into it.
I think this wasn't his first Buds class, but with me, he was just such not a team player. We're setting up in third phase, and we're trying to hide so instructors can't find us. And he's got this big, he had to put a tarp over himself. And I'm like, "Bro, they're going to find us." He's like, "Well, do you want me to get wet?" I'm like, "I don't care about you getting wet. I care about us not getting found." And I don't know, I don't want to get sued for slandering him, but he was not a good teammate. And, with us, they put him in my group for a bit, and he ended up falling asleep at the range. So in third phase in the range, he crawled into a little crevice and went to sleep because he was tired, while the rest of us were out shooting. And all of a sudden they don't have a student head count. They're like, "Okay, by that time in Buds, you're not really dangerous with a gun yet." So the instructors put us all in a little group, armed up, went and found him, and he was just passed out asleep. And then that was his last straw.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was this whole morning, I've just been thinking about leadership questions and philosophies to talk to you about. And one question I have written down here is, why do the teams produce such good teamwork and culture? right? And teamwork being the main one. And I have my own answer, but I was just curious what yours was, because I know it starts in first phase, running guys out of the boat, and it goes all the way to the end of your career.
I think the whole key is, and the reason we actually translate our guys translate so well to the civilian sector is because we don't lead with rank. No one gives a shit about what rank you are. They don't care. I actually don't know most of the time until we go to a funeral, and I'm like, oh, you made senior chief? Cool, and the meritocracy of ideas. And, we have guys who you might have squared away E6 on his third or fourth pump. When he opens his mouth, everyone listens. When then you've got the officer who comes in, he's on his second pump, he doesn't know what's going on. If he's not squared away, he's not respected and listened to. And, those guys end up leaving. So I think that just the idea of it is one of the last true meritocracies, people talk about like, they tried to do the DEI thing in the teams for a while. They're like, hey, we have got to get, and you know what? Recruiting like from the black community was awesome. Those guys did great. They came right in. And then now I'm, as XO, they're like, we got to bring the women in. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And to this day, there's not been a single woman that made it, but we spent millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I think the last time I checked, the longest the girls made it in a 6-month program in Buds was lunchtime first phase. And these are amazing women. They're badasses. But, we fight other men. You're a big, tough dude. I got to fight a guy like you. That's what we do. And, if you're not up to the task, then this isn't like the kind of thing where there's a participation medal. Because if you do it wrong, your buddies end up dying.
As I asked myself this question today, just doing a little soul searching, and I think a lot of, the reason I became who I became, a lot of it was out of fear. Like, I wanted to be part of a group, right? I wanted to fit in, and I didn't want a bad reputation, and I was more concerned about that than anything in the world.
That reputation is so strong, right?
And I was more concerned about my reputation, because if I didn't have a good reputation, then I wouldn't fit in. Guys wouldn't listen to me. I wouldn't be part of the crew. And when I think about it, I just wanted to fit in, and the way to fit in that group is just try to be better than everybody and maintain your reputation and always help somebody out. Anytime you see someone doing anything, you help them. And so I think mine was, it was a fear-based relationship with myself initially, right? Until I found my groove, and and tactics fortunately just came to me pretty naturally, right? And then I was no longer worried about keeping up. Then I was worried about, how do I lead amongst my peers?
And I think it starts off as the fear, but then it morphs into what we call team guy guilt. You've heard this. Team guy guilt, where like, you're like, I've got here earlier than everybody, but I'm tired, and they're still working. Like, I got to get back. Like, I can't be the guy not working.
I can't do it.
Yeah, you just can't. And then you know what? At the end of the day, when the guys are tired and you're all tired and everything's done, you look at each other, you're like, hell yeah, man.
And it gets, I love the team guy guilt, because it keeps you from being lazy. Now I have it in my everyday life. Like, I can't walk by a piece of trash, because imagine being in the building and seeing a guy walk by a piece of trash and not picking up. Like, if I'm towards the ladder of my career, I'm getting in that ass. Like, hey, whoa, like, this is our building. You don't have any pride in our building. Like, pick that up. Now I do that to myself.
Or even better, hey, let me get that for you. Obviously you're too busy. I got it. Don't worry about it. And then they look at you like, oh, dang. Yeah.
How was Bud for you? You have any issues?
I had one issue, and it was drown proofing. I've got the buoyancy of a shot put. And, I got in there, and everything was pretty easy for me. The bob was good, because I can like fill up a whole lung full of air and lay on the pool, on the pool deck. And, the swim was fine, but then you have to float for 2 minutes, that part, because the thing takes like 25 minutes. You're like bound up hands and feet.
I was thinking about it the other day, and I forgot how long of an evolution that is.
It's long. Yeah, it's like 25 minutes. And it's tiring, because you're bobbing for a long time. You got to retrieve a mask, you have to swim off stuff. Anyway, I got to the end of the float, and I couldn't float. And I just kept sinking. And then there was an instructor, and he was a black dude. And like, the black guys have a hard time. They sink. They're just more dense. And I happen to be in that ilk. And so he walked up to me, and he's like, hey, man, he's like, we'll give you one more shot, but you don't get to float. You have to swim in circles. That's all he told me. And then he walked off, and they're like, oh, who wants to try it again? There were 9 of us that failed. I'm like, I'll try it. And I got in, and I did everything. So now I've just been in for 25 minutes, hands up, tied up again. I get about 5 minutes break, a little pep talk from the instructor, who gives me just a little, hey, you're not I know what your problem is.
Yeah.
I've been there. You got to swim. And I swam in circles, and I made it. And other than that, I didn't fail anything the rest of buds.
I remember the worst part about that was at the very end, don't you have to go down and grab a mask off the pool deck and bob with it 3 or 4 times in your mouth? I remember coming up and I was just so out of air and trying to breathe, and I sucked in. I just inhaled tons of water. I'm like, oh, fuck it.
I'm so close.
Yeah. Then go back.
You dropped the mask?
Oh, I dropped it the first time. Then I had to go back and get it. Oh. And so then I went and got it, and then I did my 4 bobs, and but it was tough.
So for me, the bob was easy because I don't have to exhale. Most people have to blow their air out to sink. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I just go right to the bottom.
Yeah, that was a brutal evolution for sure.
Necessary.
So, yeah, 100%. Yeah, and mine was time runs. Those were my arch nemesis.
Well, you're a big dude.
Yeah. But swimming was my forte. I didn't even know that going in, but the ocean swims were glorious because me and my somebody, I'd always get first or second, and then in first phase, I'm sure you remember this. There's a 20-minute difference in the first swim pair and the last swim pair, if not more.
So you're just chilling.
Yeah, and then
so I go to decon, I change them,
and then they got to get a beaten after they quit, or after they fail. Yeah. So I have another 20 minutes. So I'd have 45 minutes off, eat breakfast.
I wasn't that good, man. I was like middle of the pack and swim. So
that was my chill time.
Yeah,
and O course. Middle of the pack, front middle of the pack there.
I was an O course guy.
I never.
That was my chill time because I was a 6-minute O course guy all day long.
Yeah.
Bust that out, and then I'm just chilling in the back. Yeah.
I was front third ish. There, nothing. Wasn't setting any records by any means. So after buds, did you guys have SQT then?
I was the first class of SQT.
Really?
The very first one.
What was that? So what was that like being on the pilot course, if you will?
I didn't know because I had nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
But when I got to team 2, they were like pissed off because we were the first group that showed up with our birds on.
Yeah.
And they were like, put them in the cage, and they had a bird cage.
Yep.
They spray painted them blue because they were inert. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And team 2 is kind of known for hazing doesn't happen in the teams.
Yeah.
But team 2 is kind of known for
shoe 2.
Shoe 2. And man, we kind of got it. And we were looked down upon for a while, but now it's just the way it is. And I think it's correct, because before it used to be you wouldn't get your trident until after your first deployment. So you got guys in the teams for 3 years or whatever, and they get back and get it. There's some old guys shaking their head right now listening to this. They're like, that's the way it should be. But I don't know. I think a year and a half, you've kind of proven it. So.
Yeah. I don't know any difference either, but there is a way to combat if the building and atmosphere doesn't do it itself, there's definitely a way to combat the entitlement or entitledness that folks will show up with, right? And
I don't feel like new guys are entitled. You know who's entitled? The 1 platoon guys. The 1 platoon guys kind of walk in and they're the teen. Yeah, you're smiling because they're kind of entitled. They think they know what's going on, but they don't.
Yep.
The first guys, they're like, hey, we got to shut up and learn this quick. The 1 platoon guys, they're kind of, if I have problems, it's those guys. And then the 2nd platoon guys are usually humble. The 3rd platoon guys, those guys are freaking, they're like Jedis.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden their weapons fix themselves. They got extra capacity to fix other people.
Isn't that weird? When
about
guys hit their
7-year mark.
Platoons?
Yeah, man.
I don't know if you experienced this at all, but when I was at Team 8 and they allowed a couple guys to be AW gunners on their 3rd platoon, right?
Oh my gosh. That'd be so fun.
And my buddy Matty was one of them. And his level of proficiency behind that weapon system was unreal. Because normally, new guy carry AW, maybe a 1 platooner to show him around, and then, your 2nd or 3rd platoon, you no longer carry an AW, but Matty wanted to. And it was him and a gentleman by the name of Josh are the 2 best folks I've ever seen behind an automatic weapon.
Yeah.
Unreal. And Danny Fox, I saw him out at La Posto when I was in SQT, just ripping it up.
Yeah.
Or where? Nyland? Is that where you go?
Nyland,
yeah, for land warfare.
Yeah. I was an AW gunner my first platoon through the workup, and then on the deployment I didn't get to. But then, as my troop commander tour, I carried an AW because we were going to sniper Overwatch. And
Yeah.
need an extra 8 of them. I'm like, oh, hell yes.
What a dream job.
Dude, I was a guest assalter. You know what I mean? Like, the guys were good. It's not,
Yeah.
I'm not going to show up there and take the reins from them, but I'll carry whatever you want.
I never mind that, right? The only thing that
Well, you're built for AW, dude.
I put my foot in my mouth a couple times. No, I mean like if the CO or the boss would come on target.
Oh, yeah.
And it would just always happen. I'd turn around like, hey, get the fuck over there.
Yeah, it always happens.
And then I'm like,
yeah. I did that to the XO. Because I was doing something. I was like running this big operation. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm like, who are you? It's like, oh, it's Matt. I'm like, oh, sorry, sir.
Yeah, you're good.
I need someone to yell at. I'm super angry right now.
So what team did you go to out of SQT?
Team two. Yeah, right to
and,
2.
Do you do 2 pumps there, 3 pumps?
I just did 1. It was a 9-monther.
Okay.
We did PACOM, UCOM, and CENTCOM.
Okay.
And then I took a test, turned out I can learn languages, and they're like, hey, we want to send you to DLI. So I learned Arabic.
Did you go to California?
Yes, sir, Monterey. Yeah. And it honestly, I hated it, but it was an 18-month course. I finished it in 16 months, passed everything because I was just like, if I pass, can I get out of here?
Yeah.
And I met over Jocko's crew in Ramadi in 06, which was cool. So I went straight over there. And then I was stuck to Team 3 for a little while.
So you graduated and then graduated language school, then hopped in with a team that was already on deployment.
Yep. Just dropped right in.
What year was that?
2006, August 2nd specifically, because it was the day Mark Lee was killed.
Okay.
So Mark Lee, the first SEAL killed in combat.
And you showed up that day.
I landed that day.
Fuck me.
And it was like, whoa. And they're like, so I'm like, hey, am I going to like get a fam? They're like, no, we need you on op tomorrow. We're out of interpreters anyway. So I was like, dang.
How many people were in your platoon?
So I landed and so we landed in Shark Base, which was where Leif Babin's platoon was. And then Jocko was, I've just got on the ground and Seth Stone's platoon was over in Corregidor, which is outside of Ramadi, Eastern Ramadi. And Jocko's like, heard you speak Arabic? I'm like, I do. He's like, show me. I'm like, okay. I was like, why don't you tell me what to interpret and get an interpreter so you know what I'm saying? And I did it. And I kind of got flustered because Jocko, you know how Jocko is. He kind of like, kind of got, and he's like, hey, your Arabic isn't that good. I'm like, he's like, but you're on the plane in 20 minutes. Go. So I jumped on the plane, went over there, and now I'm opping that very first night. Just got super busy over there. Yeah.
What role did you have?
So I was an officer, but you know, officers, especially like a young one, you're just going to fall in where you're supposed to fall in. So I
hear that's the best. Like
It's
one of the best parts of being an officer is when you're, a 1 or 2 platoon or a JO in there.
Yeah, I did that a bunch of times because as an Arabic speaker, they're like, well, nobody speaks Arabic.
Yeah.
So I would just go and I carried a lot of rockets. I carried the AW if they want me to. I acted as a point man on a couple of those. Like whatever they want me to do, I just fell in. And then the backside, I'd do the after action report real quick, the quick look it's called. I had to get that done. And then I go back out with the guys and help them clean, and, clean the weapons and stuff, and then get back in and finish the post-op stuff.
What was the op tempo like then? And, because what I'm envisioning is you wake up at 3 in the afternoon or 4 in the afternoon, you get your daily update brief, and then decide, what target you're going after, and then, frago, get ready and roll. Was it something like that?
It was like that, but for me, it was a little different because as the only Arabic speaker, they would send me out wherever. I offered like, hey, where do you want to go? So if we had like a few days without ops, on that one deployment, I did ops with Team 5, Team 3, Team 8, and Team 2. So they would be like, hey, we're down, we're slow for a few days for whatever the reason was. Maybe they're like getting some supplies, or maybe the intel cycle is getting caught up or something. And they'd be like, hey, yeah, Jimmy, Team 8 doesn't have an interpreter. You want to go work with them? I'm like, of course, I'll go work with them. So for me, if 3 was spinning, that was my priority. I was working with 3 wherever they told me to go. But if they were slow, then the other teams reach out and I'd go work with them. So I did a lot of ops. I was pretty much opping every night. I probably reloaded my mags 2 or 3 times a week because we were shooting. They were like very kinetic ops. I've had a few kinetic deployments, but that one was really kinetic, like as far as fighting every day.
Were you guys doing DAs, or what was the exact mission at that time?
Most of the missions were sniper Overwatch.
Yeah.
I did do DAs.
For Solder City?
I was not with that group. That was the 08 deployment.
Okay.
The sniper Overwatches we were doing. So Fallujah went down, and basically the Marines destroyed Fallujah. Like even the sidewalks were broken. Like there was nothing left that was not broken. Like you walk through there like, this is a rubble pile. Well, they were like, hey, we don't want to do this here. So Colonel McFarland at the time was like, hey, we're going to do this like drop these little bases and then clear around the bases. And so when they were dropping in bases, these Seabees are driving tractors in a combat zone. Now they're bulletproof tractors, but they're still getting shot up pretty bad. So when they're driving tractors, we're up in the building shooting the bad guys who are shooting them. And so that was a super common op. And then the Army would do these clearances, whether it was the Iraqis or the U.S. Army. We'd be up in the rooftops shooting the bad guys. So the most common mission was a sniper overwatch, but there's a direct action in the front part of it, right? Because you got to like take down the house, get in there, interrogate the family. If there's something good to find, then you find it. And then in between those sniper overwatch missions, which were usually part of a larger mission, they'd be like, hey, we got some intel on this, where you go hit this and drive the intel cycle. So it was just busy. Like every night we were pretty much going out.
I was a free man like that in a sense in 2010 in Baghdad. My troops split up, one platoon to Afghanistan, one platoon to Iraq, and then we were going to Ramadi. I think we were with Team 3, and then Team 3 is like, hey, we just want your like your level 3 guys or something.
Oh yeah,
nature,
we
right?
needed you guys.
Yep. So we dropped off the level 3 guys, and then we went to Baghdad to TF South.
Which for your audience, it means like human intelligence guys.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I went to Baghdad, TF South, and at this point, we sent guys down to Basra as well. And but I think a handful of us went to Baghdad with one troop that was there, and they had 2 different mission sets. And I forget, one was AQI, the other was, I forget what the other one was. I can't remember to save my life right now. But I would just go to both daily update briefs and try to get my name on any manifest. I'll drive, I'll gun. I don't care what it is. Yeah. And so I then worked myself into running recce for both platoons. Yeah. So these guys would have a night off. I'd try to go out with these guys. Yeah. And it was one of the best deployments of my life. Yeah,
that was a really cool deployment. Yeah. I thought that was gonna be the best, but I had some other good ones too after that. Yeah.
So what came next after that?
Okay, so after that, I went back to Team 3. I did another deployment. Was not as near as kinetic. The Sadr City one did go down that next one, but I didn't get the call for that. I was still working in Al Qaim and out west in Al Anbar. And then it was a good deployment. And then I ended up I got in some trouble with the executive officer. Still don't like him to this day. But basically, he told me, you've been to Iraq already. Like, it was my 3rd time. 2 or 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. He's like, hey, and I want to do a troop commander just to stay at the tactical level. And he's like, yeah, you need to go to PACOM. I'm like, I speak Arabic. No one else speaks Arabic. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Yeah. And, I said it pretty much like that. And he was annoyed and wouldn't answer my email. So I drove to tell him to his face. And then I end up getting, oh, you want to use your Arabic? Go to Bahrain as the exercise officer for a year.
Goodness. Oh, you did a year in Bahrain?
I did a year, yeah, man. And it was, it's not a sexy mish, but you know what? I learned a ton. Yeah. And I met one of my mentors, Dave Cooper, who he was the command master chief at one of the East Coast teams, we'll leave it at that. And I ended up going over there next, straight from there. And I learned a lot. It was I didn't get all the things I wanted to do when I was there, but it was really a good deployment as far as like becoming a better operator and learning to be a little bit humble, because there's some monsters and warriors in that group that I got to learn from. Yeah.
I went over there, I think twice, but just to re-enlist. Flew to Bahrain for a week or whatever, help paint a wall or something, and take the first flight out of there I could. Yeah. It's freaking hot there. So I would like you to, I'll go back to where we started when you were working at the platoon leaders course. And before we start this podcast, you proposed a question to our group of platoon chiefs in there. And I would like you to propose that question, if that's all right.
Yeah, it takes a minute to frame it though.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting shot on November 10th. And Team 3 had gone home. I'm like, hey, can I stay in Team 5's deployment? Yeah. They're like,
what deployment was this for you?
This was my second. Okay. This was the one in Ramadi in 06. Yep. And Team 3 went home, and I was like, hey guys, like, they don't have anybody that speaks Arabic. Why don't I stay? And they were like, you got to go home. You've been here, for a few months already. And then Team 5 was like, we would like to have him. So they let me stay. So I just got to stay, and we go on an op, and it was a sniper overwatch, just like we've been. The Iraqis were supposed to clear the stadium district out at Corregidor. And, the Team 5 guys were awesome, but they just got there. They've been there for like 2 or 3 weeks. I've been there for like 3 or 4 months. So I've been there for a bit now, and you know how it is once you get your feet on the ground. It's like you just see things a little quicker. And they were great guys, solid dudes, and we end up. I was supposed to be holding a sniper overwatch for the Iraqis as they clear the stadium. Well, the Iraqis turn and run, and our exfil plan was to wait till Iraqis clear it, and they set a big perimeter. We fall on the perimeter in the exfil with 500 Iraqis because we don't like to move during the day if we can avoid it. Well, the Iraqis fled, got RPG'd out of there, and now we're stuck. And so we're like, well, let's just try and wait till the night. But you know what? At 11 o'clock in the afternoon, we find out we're not going to make it. Like we're going to run out of ammo because they know where we're at. Big attacks going on, complex attacks. So we're trying to get out of there. The Army's not supposed to get us. And they're like, hey, they're like, we're not supposed to come get you, but we're going to get you. Yeah. And they called us Frogman, you know. And I remember it was Colonel Clark. He made a general, amazing dude. And he was like, we're coming to get you, Frogman. I'm getting chills thinking about it. I'm like, hell yes. So the plan was they're going to send 2 sections of Bradleys, which for your audience means 4 Bradleys. Section sounds like a lot. It means 2. So we have 4 Bradleys. But we don't want to get in them. We're just going to run next to them all the way out until we get to this tiny combat outpost called Eagle's Nest. It's not a base. There's no chow hall. It's basically a tall building with a few Marines and a 50 cal on top. We have to run there. That's where our vehicles are parked. So we're just going to run all the way out. And you know that we carry a lot of weight. And it's the middle of the day. So there's a lot going on, and we're getting in this big gunfight with the house next to us. So I bounce out. The plan was to hit this house with a rocket because I had a law rocket, which sounds cool because law sounds tough, but there ain't much in a law rocket. You know what I mean? So I bounce out there. I went to hit it. Thing blew up in my face. I don't know why. Like hit a wire. Did I do it wrong? I don't know. It blew up. So they were supposed to pick up, the machine gun was supposed to pick me up so I can get back into as we roll out next to the Bradleys, I hear a big explosion. I go to shoot, my rocket blows up. Machine gun doesn't pick me up. So I'm peppering the house on my way back around the corner, and the guys are running out. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, hey, the Brads got hit. They ain't coming. We got to go. So we're just running out. And on the way out, I bust a corner. I start seeing dust pop up around me, and I don't hear the gun yet, but I can see the dust. And then I have one hit my Camelback hose, one hit me through my chest, and then one hit me through my backpack, spun me around, put me under a car. I'm laying under this car. I must have lost consciousness. You know when you think you lost consciousness, you did? Because I must have been out for a minute, maybe hit my head or something. I don't know what happened. But anyway, I come to, and the dude's trying to shoot the rest of the dudes who are behind a Jersey barrier. And I got some good shots on him. Pretty sure I got him, but I didn't do a BDA. So anyway, I turn battle damage assessment. I keep using acronyms. So I get up, I run back, and they go to patch me up. And, you know, they look at me, they fix me. They're quick patch, like, hey, we'll go get the Brads. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And they're like, no, you got to stay. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, we don't know how bad you're hit. You got to stay. So I'm like, that feels, you know, pretty crappy. And then they end up getting the Brads. They have to send me to go get a chest x-ray because anytime you have something in it, and anytime you interrupt your body, you medic?
No.
Okay. But they're worried about the tension pneumothorax, which you know what it is, but for your audience, when you breathe in your nose, instead of it coming out of your mouth, it comes in your chest cavity and it crushes your lungs. So they send me to the hospital. What was the name? Charlie Medical. Where was Charlie Medical? Was it Al-Assad or?
I think it was on Al-Assad.
Yeah, it was a big base.
Yeah,
they sent me to the big base, big chow hall. You know, I'm in the hospital, and they chest x-ray. They had good news. Didn't have anything important. I'm like, cool. I wrote Corregidor on my hand, CG. I wrote this on my hand because I knew how they did it. When you go to the manifest, they write where you're going, and I've been traveling around so much, I knew what to do. So I wrote CG. I had a cool gun and cool kit, so no one asked you questions. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it is. I walk out there and got on the helicopter. I couldn't get all the way to Corregidor. I got to Cop Aid, which was like pretty close, maybe, I don't know, 3/8 of a mile, half a mile away. It's right down Route Michigan from Corregidor. I land in there. I get out. I walk out the base. I'm running down Route Michigan by myself at night. And I see the boys pulling out of the base to go on an op. And so I have an IR chem a Chem-Lite buzz saw is this thing for you guys that don't know where you crack it and it's on a piece of string and you spin it over your head and it makes this big flash. It's easy for people to see if you have night vision. So I pop that out, I spin it, the guys pull over, and it's the same medic that worked on me, Morgan Luttrell, I guess I can say his name. He's a friend of mine to this day. He texts me on my birthday every year. Good dude. Congressman. Congressman Luttrell. And he's like, Jimmy, he's like, you're good. What are you doing here? I'm like, I'm here to go on the op. What are we doing? He's like, he shows me the op. He calls up the boss, and the boss is like, he's still active, so I won't say his name. And, they don't have an interpreter to talk to the Iraqis. So they're pretty stoked to have me. And I remember they called over like, hey, +1 to the op. We got Jimmy. Now, I don't tell people this. I guess I'll stop here. So the question I pose is, I'm like, all right, you got this guy running down the most IED'd route since the Ho Chi Minh Trail, breaking every rule he's supposed to. He can, because you're not allowed outside the wire. For those you don't know, you can't just walk around without being on a concept of operations approved all the way up the chain. And when they called back, they thought I was at the hospital. And the question I pose to the platoon leader's level is like, all right, what do you do with this guy? Because civilians just think, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But those of us in the business are like, what a quandary you just put me in.
Yeah. And I remember, the conundrum in the class was split, right? And I believe it was, hey, no, like you got to load this guy up and get him back to base. I forget if you guys already left, the EC or the entry control point or anything like that. Like, hey, got to get this guy.
They were outside the ECP. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a whole nother dynamic too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, so you're just outside the ECP, you've test fired all your guns, you're ready to rock and roll. And then you find, a fellow teammate, and he's a teammate, but he's not on your team, right? A little bit of an outlier.
A lot of an outlier, yeah.
Right?
I'm not even on Team 5
right.
manifest, yeah.
So what do you do? Do you continue mission? Do you bring him on board, or do you go back? Do you reset it, roll this thing 24 hours? And and the class was split between like, hey, we'll just get him on board and go, and to like, oh, no. We need to bring this guy back. Roll 24, make sure, a corpsman talks to him and you get a good debrief. And did he hit his head? Was he out for a bit because he is running down Route Michigan by himself?
Yeah.
Right. And it created, not going to say a hostile classroom, but there was some heated arguments.
People were mad at me.
Oh, yeah.
There's people that want to put me on captain's mast or tell me it didn't happen. I'm like, no, that's exactly how it went down.
Yeah.
And, because they're not wrong. I think Bergdahl, what if I got rolled up and got my head cut off on TV?
Yeah.
How was that going to do with the war effort? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of things wrong. I was a young, dumb kid, But at the same time, you got a guy that wants to help.
Yeah.
What do you do with them? And I don't let the class off the hook. If you say you're going to leave him, okay, what are you going to do with him?
Yeah.
He's already broke every other rule. You don't trust his mental state, so you're going to leave him with a bunch of Americans on a base. The most, tactically trained and access to all the weapons and everything. What are you going to do? So, making him answer that question gets a little heated.
And I, if I remember correctly, my answer was like, hey, let's have the corpsman talk to him. Have the leadership team talk to him. And I would talk to him if, being the senior enlisted leader, talk to him, turn around, maybe go back to base, and then just wait 30 minutes and do an evaluation, jam mags, water, food. And then if everything checked out and he is good to go, like, let's roll. Right. But I wanted to get you back on base and give you some food, some water, and a hard reset to see if your body would calm down and that adrenaline dump would stop. That way you can make a better decision for yourself. Advice, hey, all this happened, you're still outside the wire mentally and you are outside the wire physically. Let's bring you in a comfort zone and see if your demeanor changes.
Yeah.
And if you still have that fire and your demeanor doesn't change and you're healthy, then let's roll.
Well, I think for me, that exercise is to try to get people to understand what their concerns are. Because in the military, you tend to be like, oh, this is what the SOP is if you do this.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what are your concerns? And are you taking steps to mitigate those specific concerns? I'm not here to tell you what they are because I don't know. I'm a has-been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what you guys do these days. So what are your specific concerns? What steps you taking to mitigate them and put yourself in the best? And if you can explain that, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
But if you're just saying, oh, we're taking a stand down, we're going to take you to captain's mast. Like, for what? Well, what's the point?
I do remember folks saying that in our cohort, and that blew my mind. That made me almost, it made me not like that person, right? Like, well, you're just going to grab this guy off this, like, and bring him to captain's mast. That's your first fucking, like, line of thought.
But they're not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know,
I've broken
but
up rules.
Just
if you're going
going
by the law.
straight to like UCMJ, it's awful. It's awful shoeish, right? Like
It is, and we're not supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't remember specifically, but I'm sure okay, so what are your concerns? That's why what are your concerns? How do you mitigate them? Is that the right way? You know, oh, by the way, you're about to go on an op with a bunch of guys with automatic weapons that you can't talk to.
Yeah.
And like, well, we got it approved without. I'm like, it doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
If you can better your chances of surviving, why wouldn't you do it? You know, we can deal with all of the black and white rules on the backside.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Sam Mackey here. I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Spartan Forge. Spartan Forge has no doubt made me a more effective and efficient hunter. Spartan Forge was founded by former U.S. Special Operations Intelligence Officer Bill Thompson, who took his 21 years of military experience fighting the global war on terror and applied his learnings to his true love, whitetail hunting. My favorite feature on the Spartan Forge app is the LiDAR for finding draws and funnels. It also has an AI deer movement prediction tool, so you know when and where to go. It has historical wind plots for selecting stand locations, and Cyber Scout for just about anything else I need to know. Spartan Forge, a veteran-owned and operated American mapping and scouting company. Use promo code OUTSIDER20 to save 20% on a premium membership to Spartan Forge. That's OUTSIDER20, OUTSIDER20. What leader or mentor in the teams had, if you can say his name, had the biggest impact on you and why?
Different times.
Yeah.
So the first one was Jocko. I was going to get out of the teams because I just felt like I just didn't want to be an officer.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of officers that I looked up to. And then when I met Jocko, he didn't go out and fight all the time. He was doing a bunch of boring officer stuff. But you know what? We all respected him. You know, we fought. He was just a really good leader. And he'd hold you to task and you wanted to do well for him. So Jocko was the first one that I was like, wow, okay, maybe I can stay being an officer. And then later on, I met Dave Cooper, who, you know, he was just a warrior's man and very even keeled. And he didn't even know most of the rules, to be completely honest. He wasn't good at regular military stuff, but he applied common sense in situations where people were blinded by the rules. So I really liked working for him. And then my last one was, he's active duty, but he's the JSOC commander now, so it's not a big deal. It's Mitch Bradley, and he's the highest ranking SEAL there is right now. He was my retiring officer, and that guy, physics major, super intelligent, and I did some stuff when I worked for him that was not, I wasn't being bad. I just didn't understand the rules. So I just went way outside of what I was supposed to be doing, a recurring theme in my career. And, you know, when he caught me, I remember he goes, Jimmy, he's like, we're going to go upstairs and see what you did. Cause I woke him up at 6 a.m. before I was about to drop on something. And he's like, and when we're done, we're going to have a discussion about who's a decision maker and who's a decision facilitator. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I went upstairs and we did it. And turned out I skipped a bunch of chains of command. I moved the USS Boxer, which was a amphib. I just did it.
Did you have a good JAG in there at all?
I didn't have a JAG next to me. Well, I mean, this command is full of JAGs, but he basically,
I gotcha.
He sat down with me and he explained to me what I was wrong. He didn't break my spirit.
Yeah.
He gave me what I needed to do going forward. And, you know, he was just a really good mentor. I talked to him to this day. I talked to him. He's just a phenomenal dude. So those three guys, I would say, definitely shaped my career. And then, of course, I can't leave out my best friend, Bo Nankerville, he's out now. He was Command Master Chief at Team 3 to finish his career. And just a very level-headed man in all aspects of life, even though I wasn't. I was a hothead. I was always in the scrap. I was always in trouble. And Bo was always someone that really centered me. So those four dudes. And one more, Jason Torrey. He was my platoon chief and my troop chief. And that guy, he's one of the more intelligent people I've ever met. I remember he would look at me because I outranked him. I'm his boss. And he'd be like, I don't think you should do that. So, yeah.
What would you say all those gentlemen have in common?
They're all hyper capable and not too caught up on the rules.
Okay.
I never thought about it so just now. But
yeah. Hyper capable and not focused on the rules.
Yeah.
So that's a interesting way to look at your leader and mentor, right? So you're not caught up on the rules. What does that mean? You know, and what does it mean in your environment, whether, you know, you're in the in the corporate world and or in the military world?
So this is something that translates directly to corporate world. So Dave Cooper taught me this. He's like, when to break rules. You don't break rules out of ignorance. You know the rules backwards and forward. When you break them, you know why you're breaking them. You know what it's given you. You know how long you're breaking them for. And whoever rule you're breaking, you call him and tell him you're breaking him before you do it. And that's how you break rules. And I was like, dang.
Did he tell you this in a kill house by any chance?
No. I was in a stupid admin position in Bahrain at the time when I was with him. And I can't remember exactly. We would sit down and do professional development. He would just sit down and teach me things sometimes. And one time, I think I was in his office and we were drinking buddies too. And he sat down and told me that about the rules. And I was like, huh, I don't know.
So one of my mentors is a gentleman by the name of Matt Foreman. And
I know him.
He told me something very, very similar. But we were in a kill house and, you know, for example, I forget the scenario. I don't know if it was paralleling trains or, you know, going back or not going. I couldn't remember what rule I was like not breaking at the time. And then he told me to do it. Then we had the breaking rules, you know, talk like this. And like, hey, you could break any rule wrong as you know why you're breaking the rule, what, you know, the cause and effect of breaking rules going to have, and so on and so forth, right? And then he looked at me and goes, and it applies to life. And turned around and walked out of the house, you know, and I think I was just holding on a door.
Yeah.
You know, and he just fucked me up with that knowledge and it stuck with me forever. Yeah. And I use it today.
Yeah,
you know?
I do too.
Yeah.
I run 2 businesses and I work with businesses all the time. It's like, no, we can't. And we see in the world, you can break rules. You just have to make sure that you understand what you're doing. You know the rules. And then you tell the people, you don't do it in secret. You got to make sure people know you're breaking their rule. You know? And sometimes if you can explain yourself, you're good.
So you have 2 businesses. Let's talk about those. What businesses do you have right now?
Okay, so the most important one is Beyond the Brotherhood. We'll leave that for last. But the way I make my money is called Mayday Executive Services. I used to have Sushi Assassin, but then I sold that.
Where was that at?
It was in-home sushi catering in San Diego.
Okay.
Because I went to business school. Yeah. And then I was like, you know how in the teams you go to school and I gotta use the muscle.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. You get back, you're like, I just learned how to, how to pack parachutes. I'm gonna go base jump. Like, that's kind of how it ends up. But I went to business school, so I wanted to make a business, and we made Sushi Assassin, which was in-home sushi catering. But there's not a lot of margin in sushi. The times we made the most money is if I speared a bunch of fish, and then we would use that fish then we made a lot of money. But anyway, I gave it to the staff. I learned a lot about it, and in exchange for 2 free sushi dinners for up to 10 people until the year 2030. So I haven't used them this year yet. So Sushi Assassin is cool. Anyway, not involved with them anymore other than I use them for my Mayday Executive events. Mayday Executive is high-end, safe executive adventures. So I don't have any advertising, but I'm booked right now till September, pretty solid. You want to jump out of a helicopter. You want to blow something up. You want to learn how to do pit maneuvers, J-turns. You want to, shoot a giant fish. I got you. And so I've done everything from bachelor parties to corporate team building exercises. And then I also teach in the corporate world. I teach cultivating organizational resilience. I teach leading change in an organization. And then I teach basically it's how to ignite the fire in your team. So I teach those 3 things. But it's been really good. So Mayday Executive is super fun. I get to buy all the cool equipment. Yeah. I mean, I have everything. I have night vision. My house is 800 square feet of house and it has 800 square feet of garage. And it's all parachutes and surfboards and, night vision and just everything you can imagine. So that's pretty cool.
So out of those, those tenets that you teach, which one do you think is, or can you pick one that's most important and just talk about it just a little bit?
Well, right now, it seems like the most popular one is cultivating organizational resilience. And that one is something I've applied to Beyond the Brotherhood, which is, you need to provide community purpose and goals for your team. And I talk about vignettes in the teams, and then I relate it to business. So, if we one of the things we talk about is the Hell Week Recovery Observation Center in Buds, for example. We had a student commit suicide. I don't remember this. He committed suicide after Hell Week. It was somewhere between class 305 and 315, somewhere in in that realm. So around 2016.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, we used to like have them come out and they would do like after they quit, they had to do the man talk.
Yeah.
You didn't quit, but I'm sure you had guys you knew that quit. They had to talk with the Master Chief, and then they go to bed because they've been awake for a day or two, right? Well, this dude, instead of going to bed, jumped in his Bronco, drove to downtown San Diego, and jumped off the 24th floor of the Marriott.
He went to the W, right?
Yeah, off the Marriott, yeah. So we were like, okay, what are we going to do? We got to do something with the suicide thing. And I had a lot of our officers these days are all Ivy League guys, you know? So I had a couple guys from MIT, and I'm like, all right, nerds, you guys figure out what we're going to do. And they came up with this truck idea. And it's like, basically they're like, okay, we're going to put everybody in this big room, and there's TVs, and there's food, like pizza, and they have to spend 24 hours in there. They have to call somebody from their hometown that they name before they start buds, maybe their dad or somebody, and they have to talk to the psych, and they have to talk to the chaplain, and they have to spend 24 hours in there. And I remember I heard that, and I'm like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. Like, it's going to be one mass suicide.
Yeah.
They're all going to just be this big pity party, and they're all going to be,
goodness, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. But it's exact opposite.
Place has a morale of a funeral home.
No, it's the exact opposite though. Because all of a sudden, they're not the weirdos. You know, you start a class, buds with 155 dudes, and 22 finish Hell Week. Well, guess what? 130 of them are sitting in that room, and it's like, hey, wait, we're not weird.
Yeah.
Those dudes with boats on their heads are weird. They're running around.
I didn't think about that.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
It's like, we're the normal people.
Yeah.
And then, they got to call home, and that shatters that glass ceiling of like, hey, what is, young men, they have an identity. Like if you see a truck driving down that says, mud stud or something, it's like, it's an 18 to 24-year-old young man. And they think they've never felt anything. Like, who are the guys in our buds class? They're all the prom king, the captain of the wrestling team. It's all these studs, right?
I remember showing up, I looked around, I'm like, man, I'm screwed.
yeah, I don't got a chance. Me too.
I think I'm 39 right now. I went into buds like 226.
Yeah.
And I've never had a six pack in my life. And I look around and there's guys belong in men's fitness magazines, like grown men, 28, 29 years old. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
But yes, sorry.
No, exactly right. Well, they've got their whole identity wrapped around this.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden they got to make a call home, and it's like, oh, they find out, most of them, that, hey, their dad's doesn't hate them anymore because doesn't hate them forever. It's not about what they can do. It's who they are. And if it does go bad, because I don't get to orchestrate those phone calls, if it does go bad, well, you know what? You're still in that community to come back and in that group. And since we've done that, there've been no suicides.
And you have witnessed this.
Yeah. No, we did it when I was there.
Okay.
And then we stood it up. And then now on the business side, I sit down and I talk with businesses like, hey, so what does it do? And it provides community. And like, how can you do this in business? So if you have someone that gets cancer, or someone that has to go home, have a miscarriage or something, you know what? Don't push them away. Like make sure that you've still got ties, to that group. Give them little tasks that they can still contribute, still be part of the group. Give them a purpose. That's what we do with the HROC. And then, get them started on their next goal. So when the HROC, they start talking about what they're going to do next. We start getting them on their path, what they're going to do, because they're good people. They're like some of the greatest Americans we have. They're just not going to be SEALs. They're going to be somewhere else in the Navy that's going to be useful and respectable, And so that's kind of an example of one of the vignettes I give during that time.
I want to talk about motivation, and motivating people. Because in the SEAL teams, I'd say for the most part, it's a non-issue, because if you're not motivated and you're not willing to help and you don't rise to everyone else's level of help and or energy, wherever that might be, there's immediate ridicule and outcasting, right? So I believe it just takes care of itself in the most harsh way in the SEAL teams. And it happens in the opposite way as well. People bring guys under their wing and help them out because it doesn't align with that person's personality. Yeah. Like, hey, let's peel back this onion. Obviously something's going on, right? Yeah. But in the civilian world, what are your main techniques to motivate individuals?
Okay, so I'm going to break ranks. Yeah. I don't care about motivation at all. I don't think it's overrated. Discipline is where it's at.
Really?
You know what I mean? When I don't feel like doing it, I do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I get up, I get a workout in, I do the things I need to do to make my day happen, whether I'm motivated or not. So motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes.
Those
Discipline
lines
is
kind
a
of
rock.
blur in my mind. Like I kind of look at what you just said as almost like, hey, I have to get motivated. I have to do, and I just go into the discipline mode. because that's motivation in my mind.
Okay, it doesn't blur in my mind.
Yeah.
Motivation means you feel like doing it. Discipline means you do it.
Yeah.
So I tell people like, hey, I really don't care if you're motivated or not. I've had people call me, hey, can you give us a motivational speech? I'm like, wrong guy. I don't do it. I teach discipline. I don't teach motivation. You get up, you don't feel like it. You know, if it's safe for you to do it, you should do it anyway. Get up and make yourself do it. So I'm not a big motivation guy. I think discipline is the key. And then when you know you have to do it, and it's not even like a choice in your mind, you don't have to worry about motivation. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. I still have a little trouble with that in my feeble little head, you know, because I don't have to love something to want to do it, right?
Yep.
And so that's motivation in my mind. Or is it discipline and I'm all jacked up? I don't know.
I'm not going to say you're jacked up because I ain't a pro either, but I would say that sounds like discipline to me.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like doing it, but you're going to do it
maybe
anyway.
my lens is just skewed on the vernacular
like
between the two
discipline.
words almost, you know, or something.
Yeah, man. You get up and you do what you're supposed to do because it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
And another, you know, reason I do it is how I feel afterwards. If I wake up and I just crush a day, even if nothing goes well, and I made my, you know, my routine of, you know, sales or whatever that I'm doing, I made that a little bit better that day, right? And I worked my freaking tail off. I feel good.
Yeah.
Even if I had a couple, you know, losses that day, right? And because in my mind, this is how I work, and this is what I tell folks that work with me is we get a W and everything is good, we have to work twice as hard that day to make that W great, to make it better next time, because it's just a little W. How can we create a bigger win next time? We have a loss that day, you know, or something, you know, we don't get a contract, or we, you know, don't get a purchase order that we want. Hey, no drama. Now we have to work twice as hard. So I just always default back into working hard, because working hard has the potential to make the bad days good and the good days great.
So I'm going to throw another wrinkle at you in this motivation versus discipline thing. So, you know, there's this concept of productively procrastinating, which is like what I really need to do is do my taxes. But I'm going to go outside and cut wood and clean the gear room and do that. You know. So I got some things done, but what I needed to do was get my taxes done. And so to me, you're not motivated to do your taxes. I freaking hate them. But you know what? The discipline tells me to do it. And discipline to me is like a muscle. It's like anything else. You want a big chest, you do a bunch of bench press. You know, you want to become a disciplined person, you make yourself do it. I don't like cold plunges. It's not my thing. I don't care much for it, but I understand why people do it. And I'm not going to get in a wrestling match with the doctor that tell me about what's good about it and what's bad about it. But I am going to say that there's a discipline aspect of that, of getting yourself in the cold water that, you know, spreads itself to your whole life, because all of a sudden you're working that discipline muscle, and the discipline muscle gets bigger and stronger, and you can take on bigger and stronger things you don't want to do.
To me, it's so I haven't started the cold plunge thing yet, but I think I'm about to. But for me, my cold plunge is waking up, and it's been that way.
What?
Since
You're not an early riser?
Since I was a little kid. Maybe it just started in buds. I really don't remember. I don't remember having trouble in boot camp, really. I lied to you. I remember waking up sucking. But I remember in buds, I set my alarm for whatever time, and I just made a rule for myself. I would get out of bed as quick as I could when my alarm went off and stand on that cold floor and never look at my bed again and just start the day. And that's my cold plunge, I guess.
Sounds like discipline, not motivation.
Yeah, but I believe you're correct. Yeah. But so let's talk about Beyond the Brotherhood. I'm very interested in this.
Okay, man. So you need to apply.
Yep.
Just on a personal level, it's really good for you. But so within 4 months of my retirement, 4 of my friends died by their own hand. You know.
Yep.
You can't tell me you don't know someone's killed themselves. You can't tell me.
I do.
Yeah. How many?
A bunch.
Yeah.
I would say
more than fits on one hand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're young guys, bro.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody that's non-military in your office probably knows that many people that kill themselves.
Very true.
So within 4 months of my retirement, 4 guys I knew killed themselves. Good guys, not turds.
Yeah.
Turds don't kill themselves. It's always the best guys.
It is.
And I don't know necessarily why that is, but when I sat down and was like, what can I do? Like, what can we do to like affect this? Because one of the guys was a very good friend of mine. He was in my retirement on December 14th, Bobby Ramirez. really good buddy of mine. You know, we were talking about what we're going to do the next week, and he wants to bring me to the team. I'm like, absolutely, let's do it. And then he killed himself on the 16th.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
did he just retire?
No, he was a commanding officer, sitting commanding officer at SEAL Team 1. Yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, you know, his family they're such good people. And it's still such a crushing blow, you know, like a guy like that and prior enlisted, phenomenal officer, phenomenal leader. He worked for me directly. He's one of my OICs when I was troop commander, and just a really good person. And
it always surprised me when guys are newly retired and then they decide
that's
to
the
take
most common
their own life.
time.
Yeah. It's just
time.
always the timing is always surprising.
Remember Mike Day?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was another one. Mike Day gets shot, if you guys don't know, 27 times in Iraq. And then including his gun in his shooting hand. And then he wakes up in the middle of it because the bad guys were trying to shoot his buddies. Offhand pulls his pistol and kills all 3 of them. And then he calls off the airstrike because he calls his buddies like, hey, don't drop a bomb on this, because he can hear them. And then he comes back and then finishes the job himself, kills himself years later. And one of his buddies called me right after that because it hadn't hit the press yet. And he's like, hey, Jimmy, are you sitting down? I'm like, yeah. He's like, hey, Mike Day's dead. And I'm like, what? What happened? And he's like, he killed himself. I'm like, oh. Yeah. He's like, I need to know what to do. I'm like, man, I'm not super good at this either. He's like, yeah, but anyway. So this went down and I was like, we got to do something. And so I came up with this idea beyond the Brotherhood, and I'm like, who are the guys killing themselves? It is the best guys. It is. Yep. It sounds cliche. I think it's true. Yeah. So I decided to screen and select for character. And so if you apply, you're going to have to give me your supervisor's name, 1 peer, and 3 subordinates. And I want to make sure those lines is all aligned. And once those lenses align, that means you're a solid dude. And it won't take me long. You know how small it is. A couple phone calls, text messages, I know who you are. And so we bring you in. The first thing we do is we do a personality assessment through Jay Harrison. He does pro athletes and Navy SEALs only. And not only do you do the assessment, you know how they kick you out like, oh, you're an ESTJ or you're a color. It's not like that. He's going to sit down and go over with you for an hour and teach you about some really insightful things about your personality. Then he's going to apply that to like, hey, finance is your world. And oh, by the way, within finance, maybe HR or whatever it is, and he'll explain to you why those strengths are important to you.
I have a question about that process right there. Because I've taken, of course, throughout the times in SEAL teams, Myers-Briggs, I've taken them all. Yeah. Have you seen someone change?
Yes, you do change.
Okay.
Yeah.
And drastically, or what's that change typically look like?
And you know what? I don't feel qualified to answer that question. Okay. I know I changed.
And for me, I feel like I've changed a lot.
Yeah.
So
I know it sounds like I'm crazy, but I'm way more mellow than I used to be.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
I really mellowed out. Yeah, you can ask my girlfriend. She's sitting over there. She'll be like, yeah, you've mellowed a lot.
Yeah. I used to be wired tight fight all the time.
Me too.
Like I fought on Katie and I's our first date. I got in a fight.
I used to get in about a fight a month.
Yeah.
I haven't been in a fight in years now.
Likewise.
But I'm like, what was I fighting about?
Yeah.
I did.
I would just go out and I would find a reason to fight every weekend almost.
Me too.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just real curious about that question.
Back to the personality. So, because guys get out and they're like, oh, I got to be a man with a gun. That's what they think. I'm going to go do executive security. I'm like, dude, if you want to be on some rich guy's end of his whip, just like you are on the end of the government's whip, just stay in the military. So we give them that. Then after that, we start working to find them. We pair them up with a mentor. So ideally from the industry they're going to be in, but like my mentor is a guy named Steve Gattina, who's the CEO of Pray.com. That dude, this is before we had Beyond the Brotherhood. I just asked him to be my mentor because he wanted to pay me for some work I did. And I'm like, you can't pay me. I don't do this for a living. And that dude, I talk to him every single day. I text him every day. Talk about delivering in spades. Like that guy is the biggest, it's been a powerful thing for me. And so we pair guys up with a mentor. One of our guys, Mario, works for his mentor, Greg, I asked him to be on our board. He's on our board. And those guys talk every day. It's a powerful thing, because I'm a baby civilian.
Yeah, likewise.
I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Who's your mentor out on the outside?
Yeah, I have a gentleman by the name of Pryor Blackwell and another one by the name of a gentleman by the name of John Hughes.
Yeah. Where would you be without those guys?
It wouldn't be good.
See, I didn't know to ask for one.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
But we assign them a mentor. And sometimes they don't meld, we got to have the right personality.
Yep.
But we assign them a mentor. And then if they need any training for a job, sometimes they need time off. Sometimes they're broken. I don't know how broke you are. I got 2 fake hips. I got metal rods connect my legs to my hips.
I'm hanging on by a thread right now.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I was too. So we have a group called Everspan Life. They take your blood and they'd give it to us at cost. It's still not cheap, but it's at cost. Then you call a doctor. I do this every quarter. I sit down for an hour with the doctor. He knows me. We talk, every quarter. And if I'm confused about something or I'm feeling sick, I call him up again, and he hits me up through this app, and we talk. And he goes through everything. My blood work was a mess, bro.
Really?
I had twice the amount of lead I'm supposed to have in my body. Twice. That's not healthy. I'm not a doctor, but super not good for you. I had all of so I could hardly walk because my hips, I had so much scar tissue built up in there, tons of inflammation.
I have a bad hip also.
Bro, that's a rough surgery.
Bad
bro.
knees, yeah.
Yeah. I was on every NSAID, non-steroidal you're probably on, they give us Mobic, like no big deal, right? Here's Mobic, here's Meloxicam, you're just on all this, and these are not light drugs. They tear up your insides. Then after that, I started dabbling in opiates because I couldn't walk.
Yep.
And my daughter was like, let's go on a hike, Dad. I'm like, man, I want to hike with you. I better pop an opiate.
Yeah.
And after a while, that stuff starts feeling like decaf, right? You got to take more. And so that's the downward spiral I'm on because that stuff is not good for you. And these guys, they halted it. I was like, look, I told him what my goals were, not his goals, my goals. My goals are I want to be off all this stuff. And guys come out, they're on antidepressants. A lot of them, they're on antidepressants. They're on stuff to make them sleep, stuff to make them stay awake. All over the place. I
got everything thrown at me or offered to me. And I'm like,
15-ish
whoa,
is the average.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, this. It was so much, and I'm not going to say where I was. I was at a medical facility, a very, very nice one. And I got offered so much stuff. I'm like, this can't be good. No. Right? And I'm like, I'll just stick with Max salts for my headaches, and I'll work the rest of the shit out on my own.
Well, a lot of guys get on it because they hear a doctor tell them.
Yep.
And so it's the VA just dropping stuff on them.
I did do the gangler blocker shot. Yep. Have you done that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, and it's temporary. It lasts 3 months or so, but I did that because it was temporary, right? Yeah. And but I was deathly afraid of, because I know my personality, deathly afraid of taking pain pills.
Yeah. So I don't want to get stuck on that.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. I couldn't walk. So we get guys pair up with this doctor. I'm off everything now. I'm on nothing. I take fish oil. I take homocysteine supreme. I take just a glycine, just a couple little like vitamins. I'm off. It took 8 months. And they're not saddled like the VA is. They put me on CBD for a while.
Yep.
And CBD has to have trace amounts of THC to work. But you know what? It was good for me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting high. I put some drops under my tongue. I go to bed.
Yeah.
And it builds. And after a few weeks, I'm like, oh, I don't need to take my NSAIDs today.
Yeah.
I can not take the opiates today. And anyway, it's a big thing for guys because guys are broken. And I think that's a big piece. Like, let's say you're like, give a shit o-meter. It goes to 10. When you wake up and you're in pain, it's already at 7.
My wife and I talk about that. We just relate it to bandwidth. Like, how are you doing today? How much bandwidth you got? Yeah. And I have none.
You're
like,
burning it up because you're in pain.
Sure, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And now I was actually talking to a gentleman by the name of Zaid Morgan. I don't know if you know him at all.
I don't.
He just got out of the SEAL team. He's a great, great human being. He has a nonprofit. They're doing great things. And talking to him, I'm like, man, I don't know if it's stress but like, I feel like the inside of my body is like not right. I don't know if it's stress.
Guys are killing themselves. They're shooting themselves in the chest so they save their brain for science. That's what guys are doing.
My
now.
knees are jacked. My back hurts all the time. My shoulder, so I'm extremely interested in what you have going on.
Yeah. So I'm off everything, man. I'm not on anything anymore. And I had lost 17 pounds because I couldn't work out. I was just wasting away. And so we get guys, if guys need that, not everyone needs it, but if guys need that, we get them on that. You're a high mileage guy. You got 20 years in, you don't need it. So then after that, we pair them up with like, what do you want to do for a living? Maybe you need a few months off with your family. Maybe that's what you need. Yep. So, sometimes we'll pay a salary for them to stay home and just like, hey, get to know your family. You've been gone 300 days a year.
Yeah.
Why don't you get to know them for a little bit of time? And then after that, we start pairing up, hey, what do you want to do next? What's your next mission? We'll send you to, like, we have guys when we're in real estate. They got to get a real estate license. Yep. We get the real estate license. We got to get this class. We get it. We pair them up. Aaron, I don't know if you know Aaron Pena.
No, the name sounds familiar, but no.
So he went with Compass Real Estate. One of our guys, Ed Machowski, who's about to come on our board, hired him, sent him up down there. We gave him his like real estate license. We put him in with the network. Boom, he's crushing it. He's not even in for a year. He's already talking about like, okay, I got to make a fundraiser. I got to, because after that is the community piece, right? So like we do events where we bring guys in. We'll do some shooting event or we'll drive Humvees or something with our partners, which for them, they get to do something cool. They get to meet our guys. And then, for our guys, it's we work hard, man. I mean, ask around. I work people hard. We get out there, we work, hours and hours a day, but it feels good.
Yeah.
And the guys are working, and now they get to know these people, and I've had people on from these events hire our guys, fund their businesses. It's just a really good networking thing for you to get to realize that, hey, there's good people in America. There's good patriots out there. Not everyone is out there, trying to like make a whole bunch of really bad decisions on your behalf.
Yeah.
So it's really cool for that aspect. And then the last piece, and this is a very important piece, and we haven't really got there yet because I've only been around for 2 years. It's like you turn around, you give back. Like I tell guys, and guys are trying to give back right away. I'm like, no, let's get your feet under you. Let's get you where you belong in society.
Yeah.
Let's get your family. And now you turn around and you give back. And guess what? You're giving back to guys who are screened, selected. It's not some turd that, lost his trident and is walking around trying to make money on the blood of his brothers.
Yeah.
It's a good man who served and did what he's supposed to do. And now you can help him. And guys love it, man. They're already doing it.
That's my sole motivation for success with Outsider, is to put myself in a position where I can help others.
Exactly.
And that's all I want to do, whether it be on an individual basis, on a company basis, an introductional basis. Hey, let me bring you into my network and the folks that I've been dealing with to help you.
That's right.
And that is my biggest motivator.
And this is a cartel. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
These are people who are good Americans that want to see these America's finest warriors be elevated to where they belong in society. And it's happening. We're only 2 years in, man. My first year, I was supposed to take in 3. I took in 23.
How many do you have now?
So my second year, I was supposed to take in, I was like, well, we'll try. I cut it off at 22 because I ran out of money.
Yeah.
Like I can't, it's a business.
Yep.
I can't take in more than I can afford. So I took in 20, and then I had two donors were like, hey, why aren't you taking more people? I'm like, because it cost me about $20,000 per seal to do this. He's like, I'll give you 20,000 taking somebody else. Another guy did it too. So I took in 2 extra dudes, really good dudes. Adam Schwarzy, who's running for Senate right now up in Minnesota, and then AJ James, if you know who he is.
Yep.
Yeah. Bad dude, right? Yeah, really cool dude. So got to take those 2 guys. So I got 22 in. So I have 45 total fellows right now. We're closed right now. I'm trying to build the coffers back up. I've got a big fundraiser coming up in April. The March Against
Where's that at?
The March to Stop Suicide is in Daytona Beach.
Okay.
And you walk around the track and you basically it's in Sean Murphy is the POC, but if you go on our website at beyondthebrotherhood.org, it'll tell you all about the event. But basically, after we get that, we should be able to jump right back into like bring people in. I've got 11 people screened and vetted right now that I can't bring in because I can't afford it.
Is it for Navy SEALs only?
Only Navy SEALs of character. We turn people down.
I love it.
Yeah, we turn people down.
I absolutely love it.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm like we had one guy that he's a great dude. I really like him. And I wanted to bring him in. He put me down as a reference. And then when I pushed his name out to the guys, he had a really bad deployment, did some things that weren't good. But we've got a path to greatness, to like getting back on. So we had to turn him down.
How does that make you feel, turning that individual down? Because how long ago was that incident?
Exactly.
And who is he now? And where did that bad decision or that lapse in judgment, was it a lack in character or a lapse in judgment?
Yeah.
Right.
And have you ever made a mistake?
Oh, fuck yeah.
I mean, you ask around.
List mile long.
Yeah, ask around, and someone's got some kind of bitch list about Jimmy May, 100%. And I'm like, man, so I really lost sleep about that.
Yeah,
I lost a lot of sleep about it. And so we've got it built. I just haven't rolled it out yet.
Yeah.
I call it the path to redemption.
Yeah.
And so
I love it.
Those guys that thumbs down him, he's going to have to talk to them.
Yeah.
And then we're going to push it back out and see if those guys feel like he's where he needs to be. I know this guy. He's a good man. I'm going to go to bat for him. But at the end of the day, there's a process in place, and I don't get to usurp it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Where can people find you to donate?
So beyondthebrotherhood.org, there's a donate button right there. Donate is great. We also need partners.
Yep.
We need mentors.
What type of partners are you looking for?
So if you want to put on a fundraiser for us, tell us what we can do. We'll help you do it, because that's been something I found is almost like kind of outsourcing the fundraising events, because people are like, hey, people in America want to do things that matter.
Absolutely.
And they're like, hey, I want to put in a fundraiser for you. I'm like, okay, please do. And all of a sudden they can do something cool that I don't know how to do. And I'll throw a couple people in. Maybe some of our guys will speak, or we'll be involved. We'll come to the dinner, whatever. And so that's been a huge, that's how Ed Machowski started helping us with Compass. He threw 2 fundraisers last year, raised $50,000 for us. And I mean, that's 2.5 guys.
Yeah.
Plus he hired Aaron Pena. I mean, it's amazing. We're a 501c3, and I don't know. I want the guys to meet. I want people to meet our guys. They're amazing dudes. The names I've thrown out,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're not turds. They're good men. They just need a chance.
It's an incredible human being.
Yeah.
That person that you speak of. You know?
They just need a leg up.
Yep.
Because they have a stale network. They have a stale degree. We just need to give them a chance. And like we talked about earlier, all these things they've learned in the teams translate to the real world.
I still feel extremely fortunate, to be sitting here today because it's humbling because I couldn't do it on my own.
Yeah.
I got a lot of help to get here. Jay helped me out, and it just, now it's my turn just to work and pay back. Right.
There you go.
But I'm extremely fortunate, and no one can take that next step without mentors, without help, so why not try to help as many people as you can and take that hand when you need it.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
something our guys
important.
don't want to do.
Absolutely not. It is.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Right.
But you got to do it. And Steve Gattina has been amazing for me, and that whole Pray.com team, their founders, they've done a lot for me. They've taught me so much. And, I actually, when I came up here, his mom lives in Nashville, and he's like, hey, you should come visit my mom. I'm like, I would be honored to go visit your mom. I just want to tell her how amazing you've been for us. And I'm getting choked up. You've been so good. He's on my board of directors now. We stopped, gave her some flowers. Of course, he took us to dinner. Just good people, she recovering from a surgery, but just, I don't know. I'm just so proud of the group I have, and to be part of that. I mean, my team is pretty amazing.
That's absolutely amazing what you're doing. Yeah. And I'm going to sign up. So,
please do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I say, even if you sign up, it takes a minute, but then, I think
no problem.
We'll open it back up in April, and then we'll be happy to, assuming you screen right, then, we'll put you into this group, and would love to have you on board.
And I'd like to talk to you about some fundraising opportunities as well. Yeah. And, it is absolutely amazing how many good Americans are out there. Jay and I, last year, I wanted to give back, and I'm like, hey, I'm just going to give back the way that people gave to me and what changed my life. Yep. Let's go on a hunting trip, right? So we brought 5 NSW Gold Star wives down from Virginia Beach to
badass.
Jay's ranch in Kentucky, and we just took them hunting. And I call it tree stand therapy because I met both my mentors on a hunting trip, right? And
my girlfriend taught me how to hunt.
Awesome.
I had never hunted before. She took me over New Year's. Yeah, she's sitting in the stand. I screwed it up once, but the second time I did it right.
Oh, only once. That's not bad.
Yeah. Well, she's not very forgiving of that.
But I call it tree stand therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, and when I was going through some hard stuff in my life, just sitting in a deer blind with my mentor, like a lot was said with very little words, and then just watching the woods come alive and watching the animals move, it just centers you, grounds you, right? Yeah. It gives you this sense of peace that, I really can't find anywhere else. And watching this help Gold Star wives, and one of the gals, she had never told her story about her husband to anyone at any retreats. And her and I are hunting together, and she tells me the full story. We get back, and I was talking to my friend Brooke Keating, and her late husband Charlie Keating is one of my dear friends.
Yep.
And I was telling her about what this gal said.
Badass dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my goodness, she's never told anyone at any retreat about the details of her husband. And I'm like, I take no credit. I give the tree stand the credit because for me, and for a lot of people, it just brings that sense of peace and a sense of like, oh, it's okay.
We're trying to capture some of that exactly because Greg McClelland, he's the CEO of Western Steel. He's on our board of directors. He has his own nonprofit called Wing Shooters, and they take.
I've heard of them.
Out. Yeah,
yep.
they take veterans and first responders out, shooting ducks and doves. And right now we're working on setting up a deer offering in Maui to fly guys out there. It's not all the way out. I don't want to advertise it yet because we're not have it laid out yet. But that's a great thing to do. And Greg, the dude, he can pull my man card. It's not a lot of dudes, but the dude, he's a steel worker. You know what I mean? He can work any gun. I'm always like roll my eyes like, okay, you're a better team guy than I am, Greg. I get it. But such a good dude, and we're trying to roll that in. We're trying to incorporate that right now. Yeah.
We did it for the second year, and I had friends and reaching out like, hey, I heard you're doing the Gold Star of Wives again. How can I help?
Yeah.
Like, let me help. And I'm like, oh no, we're good. Like, no, you're not good. Instead of paying this out of your pocket or out of your organization's pocket, let us donate some money. And it was very, minimal, but I'm extremely thankful because it covered everything. You know, it's a low expense trip because, Jay has his ranch is about an hour and a half north of here.
Very cool.
But it changed my life.
So there's one other aspect
people
I want to throw in here. And what we're starting to see with a lot of the government corruption being exposed, it's through nonprofits, USAID and stuff. And, people worry about where their dollar goes. So there's a thing called a program percentage. That's like how much of every dollar goes to what you're supposed to do. So 67% is considered very good. That's like the hallmark of a good. So our very first year, when I had to buy all the legal fees and all that stuff, 71%. Last year, 89%. We work on a shoestring budget, man. Like, I make $36,000 a year as a CEO and chairman. That's what I make from BTB because I have to have a salary because it looks weird having a CEO that doesn't have a salary. But as soon as I can move to full-time only chair, then I will resign my salary. And $36,000 ain't enough to live in Southern California. I make my money through Mayday. And all of my guys work at a big discount and they all have little side hustles going on because this is not about money. This is about setting something up for the guys behind us who are struggling. There's no reason for us to have a suicide rate that we have. No reason.
I'm at the transition point, within my friend group where I was one of the first ones to retire. And now, all my friends are slowly starting to retire here in the next year or two. And it is, daunting to look at your future. Like, and especially when you make the decision, I'm never going to carry a gun for anybody else in my life. Right. I'm going to make my
family
make my way a different way. Yeah. Right. And, besides your family, of course. But then comes all these questions. Hey, what do I know how to do? And you feel like you don't know how to do shit. Right. Yeah. But just because you haven't had, someone sit down and talk to you about, hey, your life skills that you've learned can translate to almost any workforce. Yeah. Right. And, but it's very daunting. So it's super cool what you're doing, man.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. The guys that we brought on, they've become really good friends of mine. My house in SoCal, it's hard to live because it's so expensive. Yeah. I've got 3 houses on my property. I rent 2 of them out to, one's rent out to Team Guy and one to BTB guys named Mario. He works for Greg at Western Steel, and he came to us in a really bad sitch, and he was like, he gave himself 60 days to figure out how to get a job. He'd lost his job, and he was on day 58.
Oof.
Yeah. And I asked him, I didn't know about this. He was at this group, and he was talking about it on our behalf. And someone's like, what would happen day 6? And he's like, well, we don't got to go there right now. And, now he's he's way high up his first year. I think, I don't want to talk about his salary here, but he's already doubled what he was making. He's working directly for them. He's like taking, and he's able to hire all of our guys into the steel industry, which is a great place for us. Yeah. And you know what? Like, is it perfect? No, like, we still struggle with little things here and there, but I'm just so happy and so proud of where he is, and we have guys that are making it and doing great. And I'm like, dude, and they're already turning around and giving back. So it's a big deal. This is a very important organization, very important mission. And, if people want to get involved, please do. And you can do your time. You can do, donations, of course. I'll show you with them. You want to see my books? I'll show you my books. Yeah. I'll show you exactly where it goes.
Good. Well, for everyone listening, please check out beyondthebrotherhood.org and donate if you can, or get involved any way if you feel necessary. Jimmy is an absolute outstanding human being, and I appreciate you, bud. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, thank you so much for having me on. And, I know we talked about a lot of dark things here, but I just want to express my huge gratitude. Thank you for having me on and helping me get the message out.
Absolutely.
Thank you to my mentors, the board of directors. Those guys, Lily and Gio and Jocko and Greg and Steve, they don't get anything out of it. They're just good people giving back. And I'm so blessed to have them in my life. And then, I feel super blessed. I have my first 2 kids are doing well. I have a 10-year-old son that I get to spend a lot of time with now. And of course, I have a phenomenal girlfriend now. And I just feel really blessed, and I'm just on a really good trajectory. And it's not my doing, I think I have to thank God for it. I have to thank my mom for all the years she spent praying, because, a lot of us in the teams lose our lose our way.
Yeah.
I definitely did. Sounds like you did too.
Yeah.
And I feel like things are going much better now. And I'm just grateful for, thank you for bringing me on. Thank you for helping get the word out. And, if anybody wants to get involved and we're looking for partners, bring it.
Yeah. Excellent. Appreciate you, my man.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
man.
sir.
Yep. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.